First up for this pickup video, I have gotten a couple figures. The first one being the Chihaya Ayase Nendoroid. This is number 2526. This was released by Good Smile Shanghai, so they are obviously a kind of sister company to Good Smile. I find that they usually release kind of more interesting or less popular characters versus, you know, the usual Good Smile Nendo releases. I have her set up kind of in a pretty typical pose, kind of closest to this. She does come with a long stand, which you can, through the magic of cardboard, change into a tatami mat, so you can have her playing karuta. She also comes with a telephone, so you can recreate the iconic scene of her receiving a phone call from her friend Arata, who lives kind of on the other side of Japan. Yeah, this is a Nendoroid that is specific to Chihaya Furu Season 3, but I think just generally is just, well, you know, Season 3 may have been the excuse to create this, but obviously Chihaya, as the main character of Chihaya Furu, was the obvious choice to make a Nendo for. For those who have been watching for a long time, don't actually own a lot of Nendos. I find I don't have the time or the energy, and I also don't really adjust or change or repose Nendos enough for me to find value in collecting them. I once upon a time did have quite a few Nendos, but not anymore. This is actually only one of two that I still own, and the reason is, I think, fairly obvious. We don't get Nendos of, well, we do get Nendos of these characters, but we don't get scale figures, which is usually my preferred figure purchasing, I guess. This is obvious due to, well, I mean, the Chaifuru is a phenomenal show, has a big cult following, but isn't certainly not popular compared to other shows and series that do get scale figures. So this character, as well as my other Nendo character, which is Pichut from Yuri on Ice, we're not going to get a scale figure of those characters. It's just not happening, unfortunately. So if I want any kind of merchandise for these characters, this is sort of the options that I have, which is not inherently a bad thing. I have really slowed down and stopped buying a lot of merchandise for series that I follow. I still own quite a bit, but I really don't get much new stuff. And actually, it's sort of ironic that in the period since I've done one of these videos, I have gotten two figures, this one and the one I'm going to show off next, because it's really not something that is emblematic of my collecting anymore. But I love this character. I love this series. For anyone who has followed my channel for a long time, my profile picture was actually a character from this series for a very long time. So a series that's very near and dear to my heart. I adore the series. We do actually have the entirety of the manga now available in English. That's an entire 50 volumes, which I would have never considered able to happen, especially in kind of the industry market of the past. And of course, we have the 3 seasons on Blu-ray and all those exciting things. So it is a series that I adore anyone who I know has seen it, loves it, but it's certainly not like, you know, the major shonen exciting titles that we see that are the ones that get figures more regularly. So that's a lot of waffle to say. I love this character. I love the series. It's not a series that gets a lot of merchandise, so this was sort of a no-brainer for me to order when I heard about it. For my figures, this is the scale figure I got. It's a 1/7 Marcel from Delicious in Dungeon, the elf or half-elf character from the fantasy cooking comedy. Has both a manga and an anime, both of which I really enjoy. I haven't seen the entirety of the anime, but I have read all of the manga, and it is fantastic. I love the series. You will see it a couple more times in this video, actually. But this figure is, although there are a lot of figures of Marcel, I really enjoyed this one. I like all of the various callbacks and references that are featured on this very intricate base. She's very well done. Good smile always. Well, maybe I'm just not detail focused and picky enough, but I never seem to have a major issue with any of their figures. Yeah, I wanted a Marcel, and as I said, I'm kind of spoiled for choice. This was the one that really stood out to me. The colors are amazing, and she's just really, really well made. And as I said, I appreciate sort of the additional references that are featured on this particular figure. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic scale figure. For those who playing along at home, typically for scales, I only buy 1/7 or 1/8 scales. This obviously is one of those, so a 1/7 scale, because I find personally that 1/7 / 1/8 are one sort of the most prolific, to large enough to have intricate details that don't get lost with the scaling or the size, and 3 don't take up like the massive amount of room that anything over 1/6 does. I have seen, and like my sister owns 1/4 scales of certain characters, and they are just too big. I do not have that kind of space. I have a dedicated room for all of this stuff, and it is not that big, so I can't have, you know, monuments to fictional characters adorning every surface, as much as that might appeal. So this, I think, is right in the sweet spot for me. I just really, really love this release, and now that I've actually had a chance to talk about her, I can put her safely in her glass cabinet to be appreciated in a safe environment. Let's just put it that way. To the manga. I don't have any anime this well, I was going to say month, but it's several months, just because I've been streaming and rewatching some things, and also watching some titles that I own but have never seen before. So there are some anime releases that I am wanting to purchase, but I will try and grab those when there's sales or secondhand if I can, because I'm not really in a rush to pick some of these up. But onto the manga, because that's neither here nor there. First off, I will start with the finales, I guess, the last volume's finishing series. I do have one, and it is actually tied to what I was just previously talking about, and that is Delicious in Dungeon by Ryoko Kui. This is volume 14. This is the final volume of this fantasy comedy manga. I love the series. I'm not going to flip through it because spoilers, but this is just such a wonderful release. Yen Press has put out the entirety in English, obviously, as well as sort of the additional bits and pieces, character guides and things like that. Very fun, very funny. I really appreciate this series. I love Kui's humor, but I also love her creativity when it comes to building this fantasy world, how she's been able to really create a very rich culture and history to what could otherwise be just like a pretty standard dungeon crawler style of fantasy. All of the like character races are very well thought out. It does feel like a lot of love and a lot of thought has been put into the series, and so I just really appreciate that effort. And you know, she's very good at what she does, and as always the comedy is, in my opinion, very, very strong, very good. You really have appreciation for these characters and their interactions and their relationships with each other, and just a really fantastic ending to a fantastic series. Next are the manga debuts that I've received or started in these last couple months, or purchased, I guess, in the last couple months, because there are series that I've started but digital only that obviously I don't have the physical book for. But this one, when it was announced, I knew I had to get it. Again, this is very, very obvious if you have followed me for a long time, or even not a long time. But this is Tamaki and Amane by Fumi Yoshinaga. This is a single volume, I guess a collection of short stories where the titular characters, Tamaki and Amane, sort of, it follows their lives throughout many iterations of their lives, right? So I'm maybe not explaining this very well, but under the assumption that reincarnation is possible, these two characters are reincarnated at different times in history, in different situations, and so it showcases, due to that, kind of how relationships change, how love, friendship, and all of these things are expressed through fundamentally what are the same characters, but how does a time period, how does a character's age or a relationship to the other affect how they interact. I love Fumi Yoshinaga. She is a phenomenal mangaka. I own all of her works. I own all of her, I guess, quote unquote, general works. I used to own all of her BL. I do not anymore. But I have read everything that she's put out, or that we have had available in English. With this particular release, we now have had all of her stuff released in English, aside from one short story collection, which is called A Child's Temperature, which I don't know why that is the only one that we've never gotten. I am speaking to the Yen Press representatives who are not watching this, but please give me that single volume of short stories, because I will buy it and read it and champion it, because that's not only who I am, but certainly one that is sort of top priority for me. This was fantastic. Yoshinaga is always fantastic. She has a real mastery of character interactions. Her characters feel very, very real. She balances humor and kind of tragedy very well. The way that she showcases how quickly a mood can change, or how subtly one comment can sort of change the entirety of a perspective, is just so well done. I highly encourage people to read really any of her works. Obviously, there's this. There were a couple series by DMP that were released many, many moons ago. Antique Bakery and Flower of Life, which I both adore, but are both very out of print. So the only other kind of major titles that I think you can get fairly easily. I don't know, because obviously I own them, so I don't ever really know like what's in print and what isn't. But her ongoing series, no, what is it called? What Did You Eat Yesterday? Is fantastic, but very long. But in saying that, just like it's fantastic. I really don't think there's another series quite comparable, especially showcasing the domesticity of a gay relationship, a long-term gay relationship. And is very self-indulgent for Yoshinaga because it does feature so much of her special interests, that being gay men and cooking recipes. But even her short form stuff like Not Love But Delicious Foods Make Me So Happy, or Garden Dreams, All My Darling Daughters, they're all wonderful, and I would say probably fairly easy to get. Again, I don't know because I'm not, trying to purchase them. So I don't know how readily available they are, but this definitely worth picking up. It is a new release, and I hope we see that last Yoshinaga title in English, because it would make me very happy. Fan press title. This is the first volume of an ongoing series, and one that has had a lot of buzz. It won some awards in Japan. I've really enjoyed what I've read so far just from this first volume, and that is A Witch's Life in Mongol by Tomato Soup. Volume 1, there's, I believe, 4 volumes in Japan currently and is ongoing. This is the story of a young slave girl in 13th century kind of Iran, so Middle East. She initially is enslaved to a family to which she grows quite close to. She has a good relationship with both the mother and the son of the family that she's enslaved into. But at some point, and they educate her. They give her an opportunity to sort of better herself, which is not, I'm not going to say was not common, but is certainly not quote unquote necessary for a female slave within this period. But unfortunately, the town that she lives in is raided by the Mongols, so the Huns, and just basically pillaged. Everyone she cares about is either killed, captured, and enslaved. So she finds herself being taken to Mongolia, or what would become Mongolia, and enslaved in service to the Khan, the emperor, I guess, or this to-be emperor, the fourth son of Genghis Khan, his wife in particular, because she is educated, she can read, she can speak a little bit of Persian, she can speak Persian, she can speak a little bit of Mongol, and she's smart enough to take advantage and manipulate her situation to try and get to her own goals, which is basically revenge, right? This is a really interesting book, really interesting art style. I'll open up to one particular. It's maybe more cartoony than it's not a typical manga art style, let's say, but I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of, it is a setting that's not that normal or typical in manga. I don't know that a lot of people might be aware of like the Huns and the Mongolian Empire, but they might not actually know very much about it. So like a lot of historical fiction, I think this gives a real opportunity to learn about a very interesting time period that a lot of people, like, their only exposure to is like Mulan, right? So I really enjoy this in the same way that I don't know that it's as strong as A Bride's Story, but it explores a period of time, a historical period, and an area, that being kind of Persia and the Persian Empire and the Mongols and the Mongolian Empire, that maybe not a lot of people are aware of. Kind of Islamic history is very, very interesting and is actually quite amazing and has impacted so much of just modern culture, insofar as mathematics and history and all of these aspects that we kind of take for granted. But people don't really realize that these are, quote unquote, non-Western, or non-modern Western inventions, maybe. It was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. I think the art style is very quirky. It reminds me a little bit of like Tezuka style. Fatima, who's our main character, she is, I mean, you can understand her position very well. I think they build her up as a very strong character, and you really do want to see her succeed in her goals. I can understand why this has gotten as much buzz as it has in Japan, which is not always the case when it comes to award-winning manga. But yeah, this is definitely worth a try. If it sounds interesting to you, check it out. Here's another one and done series. This is a much more fancy edition, one that I've been looking forward to for a long time, and I've actually spoken at length about this particular book in my podcast that I co-host, Read Right to Left. But this is the Denpa release of They Were 11 by Moto Hagio. This is a fantastic 70s sci-fi series by the sci-fi master herself, Hagio. This is the complete release of this particular series, though not the first time it's been released in English, but previous releases, very hard to get, very out of print. This is such a influential story, series. This contains the original They Were 11, like, single chapter story, as well as the sequel manga, which has never been released in English. So this was just a must-have. I'm not going to get too into it because, as said, I have spoken at length about it in the podcast episode itself. But for as long as this took, it was, I think, 6 years from announcement to release that we actually got this. But they've done a great job. It was worth the wait. I obviously wish it had come sooner, but there's a very small team at Denpa, and obviously we had a global pandemic that sort of impacted everything for a long time. So I'm just happy that for as long as it took, for as much time and frustration and patience everyone who wanted this book has had to have, it has been worth it. You can tell the amount of love that has gone into this particular book. It's beautiful and definitely worth checking out. If you have no familiarity with this series, you should try it. You'd probably be surprised at how maybe familiar it is to you, because, as said, it is hugely influential and it has impacted and influenced so many things that have come since. Definitely check it out. Continuing on my Moto Hagio releases, this is a re-release that I bought because I am hedonistic, and I wanted this particular re-release. Yeah, I'm not going to pretend like this wasn't superfluous, but it's something that I adore and is just gorgeous, and yeah, I just wanted the nicest release for it. But this is the box set of the complete Poe clan from Moto Hagio. This contains both volumes of the Poe clan, which is a vampire drama tragedy from, again, Moto Hagio. This is one of her, if not her most famous title, especially, I guess, currently. I say that because a lot of her sci-fi is not as well known. This, The Poe Clan and The Heart of Thomas, is probably her most well-known work in English, but it wasn't until Fantagraphics released this in English, probably, I don't know, 5, 6, maybe longer ago, that we actually had it in English at all. It's also indicative of kind of the non-sci-fi stuff that Hagio has done over the years. This is beautiful. The box set is beautiful. The books are beautiful. I don't know how I can sell this other than this is a fantastic collection. Like, this is a fantastic series, full stop, but it is a beautiful release of just again a very influential series. I would encourage people to try this. You know, it's one that for shoujo, classic shoujo manga, is standout, and I mean, Fantagraphics deserves so much accolades for taking a chance on these classic titles. I love this. Their box sets are beautiful. They're super duper high quality. And yeah, this is not a necessary purchase because I did actually own both series, or both books, I should say. But, you know, why not? Life is meant to be lived. And if I can't spend my money on my fun little hobbies from time to time, then, you know, what kind of responsibly, I should say, responsibly, I don't waste my entire paycheck on fun little comics, but, you know, being able to be choosy and then therefore be able to justify an self-indulgent purchase like this, you know, that's what life is about, I think. It's just having fun and enjoying the beauty of the Poe clan. This is a bit of an unusual one, similar to what I've just shown off, but different in also some ways. This is the box set of Tezukomi, which is I guess, tribute collection of comics from various artists to the works of Osamu Tezuka. Now, this particular release I helped crowdfund, and I didn't really know what to expect, but it does cover sort of modern comic creators' takes of classic Tezuka works, stuff like Unico, Dororo, there's a million others I can't remember right now. Well, Astro Boy, obviously. Oh God, oh my God. There's so many that it's sort of impossible to completely encapsulate, but I really appreciated the idea of having a modern take on some of these classic and influential characters, mainly because I can appreciate Tezuka's impact, but I also don't appreciate sort of Tezuka's more problematic aspects, namely, you know, racism, sexism, how female characters, etc., are treated. And I think there's a lot of very interesting ideas in Tezuka's manga and a lot of very iconic characters. And again, I don't want to downplay Tezuka's impact on the manga industry. He is, the grandfather of manga for a reason. But I, as a modern day reader, can find it hard to Blackjack. That's the other one I was trying to remember. Do find it kind of unnecessary to read his manga, and that's like, I don't want people to say like, oh, you're just woke hater. It's like I've read Unico, I've read Dororo, I've read Mu, I've read like quite a bit of Tezuka, and I've read Princess Knight and Twin Knight. I've read quite a bit of Tezuka, and again, whilst I can appreciate it, I don't enjoy it, right? Because again, issues of the time, right? If you want to be generous, issues of societal views on certain things of the time. The 50s and 60s and 70s were not fabulous for like women and minorities and those sorts of things. And Tezuka has had like a kind of a favorable view on those things for the time, but I don't want to have to force myself to read those things as a grown adult in 2025, right? You may feel differently. That is my perspective on it. So it's cool when you can see people who are also creatives, who've also been influenced or have an appreciation for such an iconic and prolific mangaka, but also kind of modernize some of these ideas so it doesn't feel like you might possibly accidentally start reading about a hate crime. Anyway, is it a necessary thing? I don't know that this will fully appeal to everyone, and kind of a lot of diehard manga fans are kind of very anti non-manga or non-Japanese comics. But I think if you like Tezuka, or at least if you can appreciate Tezuka, but then this is kind of a cool little extra thing that you might be able to enjoy. I don't know. I liked it. To the continuing manga. First up, we have 2 volumes of this series. I think I'm missing 1 volume that's been released so far, but these are the 2 most recent releases of the Vinland Saga Deluxe Edition. So we have book 6, which is this brown color, and then book 7, which is the first of these green covers. I've read the volumes in this particular book, but I haven't actually opened this one. I was collecting the 2-in-1s, Kodansha's original releases, but I've since transitioned to these re-releases. I like these. I know that a lot of people have kind of deluxe edition fatigue for manga, and don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of deluxe manga coming out right now, and if you are someone who collects a lot, then it would certainly be impacting your wallet right now. And if you are already collecting a certain version of something, I don't think it's necessary to purchase a re-release. That being said, I'm a hypocrite because I'm doing just that. Vinland Saga is the perfect example. I started with I will say that, like, for Berserk, I started with the deluxe edition, so I feel less bad about that. Obviously, you've seen me talk about the Poe Clan. I've rebought Tekken King Crete. I'm going to be rebuying Mushishi. I'm part of the problem here. I'm definitely going to be getting the re-release of Witch Hat Atelier. I justify it to myself because I do actually really enjoy all of these series. Berserk probably the least out of all of them. And that's more so a reflection of me than the quality of them and the quality of Berserk. But I like fancy editions. I don't take these manga with me on the train or anything. Like, they're just very unwieldy, and I don't typically read manga in public. Just a little fact about me. I don't repurchase things for box sets. I've only done that once. And I wouldn't do it again. But so, like, Toilet Bound Hanako-kun and Delicious in Dungeon, I'm not going to repurchase for just having box sets. But I do like oversized fancy editions, especially if the manga itself kind of justifies it. It's also why I think stuff like the not Vinland Saga, Vagabond re-releases, fancy editions are probably worth it, because that series is gorgeous, is very highly detailed, and very popular. I feel less kind of enthusiastic about, like, all the fancy editions we're getting of stuff like Parasite or what's the other one? Attack on Titan. They are very popular, and I can understand why, but for me, obviously, I'm not a fan of those. So I think, personally, as long as a standard edition still exists, and if you're happy to just continue purchasing the standard edition, because either you're not that big of a fan, you enjoy it, but you don't need a big fancy edition. No one has a gun to your head and, like, forcing you to purchase these things. As long as the standard edition is still readily available, I don't have a problem with a company putting out a new fancy version. Same thing with oh god, I had another series that I was going to mention, but I can't remember what I can't remember. We'll just ignore that. But I guess that's just me trying to say that I do have a lot of series like Vinland Saga, like Witch Hat Atelier, like the Poe Clan, that I am happy to spend the money on, to have the nicest version of, because I know that, like, for me, my collection is absolutely something that I read, and I would never just purchase to, like, hold value. That's not why I buy collectors, like, fancy deluxe editions of things. It's because I like the updated translation. Sailor Moon was the other title I was trying to think of. Man, my brain is all over the place today. I'm sorry, guys. But I like larger pages, especially for highly detailed art. I like updated translations to be more consistent. So that was something that influenced me to purchase the Kanzenban editions of Full Metal Alchemist, the Full Metal editions. That was consistency of translation. And maybe in a video like this where I'm showing off all of the titles, all the books that I've been purchasing, is not a great example of me being choosy, but honestly, I don't purchase a lot of manga anymore. I don't purchase a lot of anything anymore. So there's certain titles that I'm happy with the standard edition, and I don't really need a big fancy edition for, like Chainsaw Man, for instance, or Dandadan, or Skip and Loafer, or, whatever. But there are some titles that I really adore and that I would happily pay to have in a nicer version in my collection. So when I want to reread it, it feels, I kind of get the quote unquote best version of that story. And people have different ways that they feel about how a story is best presented or how a book is best presented. I am a hobbyist in that I buy manga because I enjoy comics and I like reading them, and that's the point of me having them. But also, I'm a little bit of a magpie. You know, I am a bit of a collector at heart, that I do want to have nice versions of things that I enjoy. And so when I go through this process of like selling or reassessing what I'm buying and changing how my collection kind of reflects who I am, I like having a nice I like having nice things. I'm sorry. Maybe that makes me a bad person, but I just like having nice things. So I don't feel bad about it. But in saying that, I don't encourage people to just go buy new versions of everything as soon as they come out just to have like a fancy edition of a series that you don't really care about because you think that'll be worth money down the line. I'm not a collector in that sense of like, I collect things because I enjoy them and I use them and I read them. I'm not a collector because I want to, you know, have this as an investment towards my retirement fund. Nobody gives a shit about comics in that way. Certainly not me. So, you know, there are certain people and certain comics that do hold a value or increase in value, but like 99 times out of 100, that is like not the case. So I always want to say that like I appreciate and I think it's very important that people, one, support the things that they enjoy in a legal way. It doesn't mean having to put money towards that title. You can borrow a lot of manga and anime and all of these things from libraries. That is a very, very valid option. Or of course we do have these subscription type of services like K-Manga, like the Shonen Jump app or the Viz app. There are options to read a lot of manga for very little money or no money at all. That isn't just scanlation. Two, that if you do want to collect manga or collect anime because you enjoy those things and you will reread them or rewatch them or for whatever reason, I think it's also very important to shop around, not buy new all the time. I find personally like getting something secondhand is exciting and fun and a lot more interesting than just going to a bookstore, or not even going to a bookstore, just buying off of Amazon constantly. I think there's something very reflective of like how a community interacts with each other by purchasing secondhand. And I always see it like when I get rid of a title or when I sell a title as that series making someone else happy. That isn't me. So I feel like, you know, I might be contributing to a younger person's interests and, you know, newfound excitement in this hobby that was me 10 or 15 years ago. So, you know, I look at it that way. And then I also, but to that final point, as an individual who is quite picky with what they enjoy and what they spend their money on, I don't feel guilt over spending a little bit more money on titles that I know that I enjoy already and that are maybe pricier. And, you know, I don't have a lot of hobbies. This is maybe one of 3 that I have, and I work very hard. So I like to, when I do have extra spending money, I don't feel bad about spending it on the things that I enjoy. So, you know, that is what it is. Assess collector's editions or deluxe editions in whatever way you want. I like a lot of them. I own a lot of them. I have plans to own more in the future, but I don't think it's a necessary thing to be purchasing. If one, you can't afford it, two, you don't have any interest in it, or three, you have a perfectly fine version of a series already. I don't think it's necessary to swap out every version. I say, as someone who's done that. So anyway, Vinland Saga is fantastic. I'm not going to really go into what the series itself is about because everybody knows, or at least I feel like everybody knows, it has a very popular anime, or 2 seasons of anime now. It's a phenomenal series, historical fiction. I love it, and it's certainly one that has absolutely exploded in popularity over the time that I've been a manga fan. It's recently just ended as well in Japan, so we will have about 10 of these particular deluxe editions. I suspect because the Japanese release is 29 volumes and these are 3-in-1s, that for the last volume of these deluxe editions we will get either additional like essays or fan artwork or Yukimura interviews and things. Like, we'll have some additional extra stuff, which it seems to be the case with these when you don't have quote unquote enough content to fill the regular sized volume for omnibus releases. On to continuing like standard size manga. I only have 2 volumes. They're for the same series. This is one that I literally just mentioned as well. This is Dan Da Dan volume 11 and 12 by Yukinobu Tatsu. This is a comedy, horror, sci-fi, supernatural manga about 2 high schoolers in particular, but actually now at this point it's kind of a group of high schoolers who have kind of gotten themselves into some trouble with the supernatural and, just try to save the world each and every day. And not even necessarily save the world, but save themselves. It's quirky, it's funny. I love this series. It has an anime, which the second half of the first season is currently airing, which I guess is technically the second season. I don't know. The anime is very confusing nowadays. But new season or new episodes currently being released on streaming platforms. I watched it on Netflix, but I think it's on Crunchyroll and places as well. Yeah, I really enjoy this series. It's quirky, it's funny. It's sort of I see it as kind of the quirky cousin of Chainsaw Man. For those who don't know, Yukinobu Tatsu was an assistant for Tatsuki Fujimura, so you can see the influence there. I really enjoy both series. It's just quirky, and I really appreciate the characters in this one. They're all goofy, silly kids, very down to earth, despite being kind of high-strung teenagers. And I, like with Chainsaw Man, really appreciate how well this mangaka is able to turn kind of really annoying or aggravating characters into very sympathetic characters very quickly. It's a very effective series. I really, really enjoy it. The interpersonal relationships between all these kids are very believable, and I don't know. There's just something really lovely about it. Dan Da Dan is fun and doesn't take itself too seriously. It's crass. It's got a bit of like toilet humor, but I'm not too, proud or prim to not laugh at, poop jokes. It's a good time. It's a good time. Obviously this is a very mainstream series. It's very, very popular, but it is one that like Chainsaw Man, and I think Chainsaw Man was the one that started this trend, but it really has pushed the envelope of a shonen being kind of a generic by the numbers adventure protagonist hero journey. Not to say that there isn't a lot of shonen tropes in this, but I do appreciate, as obviously an adult, a series that is just a little bit quirkier, has a bit more teeth, doesn't take itself super duper seriously all the time. And again, not that shonen does that, but there's a time and a place for like a quote unquote classic style of shonen, the My Hero Academias of this world, or the Dragon Balls of this world, or the Narutos of this world. There's a reason they're popular, and I have enjoyed, of those series that I've read, I've enjoyed them. But I think because of the uniqueness, the quirkiness, the, I guess, individuality, the series being unafraid to just be itself and not become a generic by the numbers title, is what gives it that oomph that makes people appreciate it more. And that's how I feel with this series. Love it. It's very, very good. I mean, if you want to read it, it's on the Shonen Jump app. If you want to watch it, it's on Netflix and I think Crunchyroll and a bunch of other streaming services. It's super well liked. It's one that most people know. So I'm not really, preaching to the unconverted here, but it is well worth watching. And I really enjoy it. The ongoing manga, we have the larger trim stuff. First being March Comes In Like a Lion by Chika Umino. This is volume 3. This is the ongoing shogi drama. I think it's a josei series technically. Oh, no, actually, it's a seinen. Pardon me, it's a seinen. About a professional shogi player in his teens and sort of the personal relationships around him, as well as his own relationship with shogi itself. Chika Umino, for those who don't know, is the creator of Honey and Clover. She's done some other stuff, but March Comes In Like a Lion is sort of her other most well-known work. It took quite a while for this to be released in English, namely because it's one of those series that, like, similarly to Chihaya Furu, shogi is a very Japanese sport, quote unquote, and I think the idea of translating that was seen as very intimidating and difficult for a long time. But since we've had such an increase in interest in anime and manga, and people have been more willing to engage with series like March Comes In Like a Lion, I think we've seen a lot more publishers willing to take on a risk like this. So to me, it's been nothing but win-win. I really enjoy this series. I like Chika Umino's work. The characters in this are fantastic. Our main character's relationship with the three sisters, of whom he just kind of has dinner with every so often, is sweet. You can see how much four of these characters need each other. And then also our main character getting some perspective and being pushed outside of his own head long enough to appreciate the people around him. It's fantastic. I love this series. There's 16 or 17 volumes in Japan currently, so we are not even close to catching up. It takes quite a while for these volumes to be released, but I do believe volume 4 has just hit the Dempa offices and in the printed release form, so it's slowly starting to increase volumes of turnaround. I know that pre-orders for volumes, 4, 5, 6 are currently up and waiting, so it's a slow but steady release for this one, and I can't be happier. Fantastic sports series, one that I was reading digitally and which made the jump to physical print releases. I actually haven't read these volumes because I'm a couple volumes behind, but I actually don't have the 2 volumes before these ones because, okay, I'll talk about it once I say what it is. But this also just recently got an anime. I think another season is coming up soon. This is Medalist by Suruma Ikara. This is a sports series about figure skating, a young girl and her coach, who's kind of the only one who believes in her. This is a more classic, shonen sports series. I don't actually know if this is shonen or not, but it's a fantastic series. I love it. I haven't seen any of the anime. I do plan to watch it, but man, I love me some sports drama. And I love the relationship between our main character and her coach. I love all of the skaters. They're all fun and quirky. The rival character is fantastic. Rival characters, I should say. This is so good. It's so good. I love it. Yeah, I'm so glad that this made its way to print. I'm glad that whether it was because it was getting an anime or digital sales were that good that Kodansha could see the writing on the wall. But what I find is normally if a digital title, a Kodansha digital title gets an anime announcement, that's sort of when they make the jump to print, which I do think is fairly smart. People might argue against that, but that's not fair. But obviously there's a huge jump in interest in a title once there's an anime, and so why not cash in on that popularity? I think it's a smart business decision. Again, people might not agree with me, but I don't care. This is fantastic. I love it. Yeah, definitely check it out. As said, I haven't seen the anime, but I've heard pretty good things. And if you like sports series, then definitely check out this series. If you like mentor-student relationship series, not romantic relationship series, but just a really, really strong personal relationship between athlete and coach, then check it out. If you like figure skating, then check it out. It's really good. It's really, really good. I haven't read these volumes 8 and 9 because I do not have volumes 6 or 7 because I have had to order these online, and where I get them, sometimes they get released, sometimes they get books on the release date, the US release date, and then sometimes they get them on the Australian release date, which is normally 3 or 4 or 6 months behind. So it's really annoying. It's really annoying, and I hate it. So that's why I don't have volume 6 or 7 yet. So I can't actually read these yet. Dear. Globalization. Next is the BL manga. First up is one of my favorite ongoing BL series, or probably my favorite. It's in the top 3, certainly. And that is our Not So Lonely Planet Travel Guide by Mone Sorai. This is a BL about a couple, 2 men, who are traveling the world, seeing different countries, and once they go on their grand tour of globe-trotting, they are going to come home to Japan and get married. And as someone who loves travel, and as someone who loves sweet relationships, fluffy, lovely, sweet relationships, and as someone who really loves how when travel depicts sort of opening up of perspectives for characters, this ticks all of my boxes. I adore this series. It's fantastic. I think it's about to finish in Japan, so this is volume 6, if I didn't mention. But I think that, which is also the most recent volume in Japan. So I think volume 7 will be the last one, and I will be sad, but I will also be happy because, again, for those playing along at home, you know that I always prefer when a series can end on its own terms. I don't like series to be like 4 million volumes long. There are very, very few series that I feel justify, a volume count over 10. Certainly very few that justify a volume count over 20. So if a series can like wrap it up in 10 or less volumes, then I kiss them on the mouth. They are fantastic. And especially so for like romance series, especially so for like sweet romance series. So this is like right in the sweet spot for me. And I really, really, really love travelogue stories. And this is exactly what this is. All of the countries that they showcase are so interesting. I find it funny or quirky when these characters visit Australia. I'm like, hey, I live there. Which is so stupid, but like, I don't know. I feel like it just kind of gives you warm bubbles, but also it teaches you again about places that you might have never gone to, you might not know very much about. Even places that you have been to, they might visit places that you haven't been in that country, or do things that you weren't able to do, like it was the wrong time of year, or just whatever. It's cool. I like it. It's just cool. And as someone, again, who enjoys traveling, but who hasn't been able to travel a lot recently, like honestly, I've just come back a couple weeks ago from my first international trip since pre-COVID. And part of that was like a business trip / personal trip. I had to go to a family wedding. So that finally gave me an excuse to actually go and travel internationally again. And I love travel so much. Like I've traveled a lot prior to COVID, especially like growing up. So I really, really missed it. And so in those COVID years, which I'm not saying we're not in COVID years, but like when pandemic was happening and lockdowns were happening and travel restrictions were happening, this series just made me feel like I wanted. It made me kind of felt like I was satisfying that travel itch a little bit. But also just rejuvenated my interest in traveling to more places. So maybe kind of a catch-22 there. But this is a fantastic series. I love it. Definitely check it out if you are a fan of BL. It is honestly one of my favorite series coming out right now. Next is another very popular series, one that I really, 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 really love. And this is The Summer Hikaru Died by Moku Moku Ren, Volume 5. I think Volume 6 is out. I don't remember. This is the most recent volume that we've gotten here in Australia, at least. This is a horror BL about a boy from a small town whose best friend gets replaced by something after he disappears in the woods for a while. And he's the only one who initially, he's the only one who kind of realizes that this is not his best friend Hikaru, this is something else. But because of his own complicated feelings for his friend, he doesn't want to admit that, and also doesn't want anyone else to find that out, because if someone finds out that, you know, a monster has replaced this local kid, that's not good. Certainly not probably a good thing for that, for people to know, because if you found out a monster was living in your community, then you would probably want to get rid of it. And as someone who loved the boy who was replaced by the monster, he kind of doesn't want the person he loved to be killed and or destroyed. It's fantastic. Like, this is fantastic. We have a anime coming out right now. Again, I haven't watched it yet because that's just who I am. But I do plan to. I've heard nothing but good things about the anime adaptation. Yeah, oh my goodness, it's so good. We're about, from memory, I believe Moku Moku Ren has said that they want to try and finish the series in 10 volumes. So we're about halfway through. And I think that's kind of again, indicative of me liking a series finding its natural conclusion. I think that's kind of a good number of volumes to have to fully flesh out this series into the story without dragging it on too long or kind of getting lost in too much superfluous things. But yeah, this summer, Hikaru died. Fantastic series and highly recommend it. Finally, for the BL, we have the most recent volume of Cherry Magic. 30 Years of Virginity Can Make You a Wizard. This is volume 13 by Yu Toyota, released by Square Enix Manga. So this is great. I mean, we're 13 volumes in. What do you want me to say? Our main couple has, since the beginning, not only gotten together, fallen in love, but are now married. So we have more so of a focus on their, married life, as well as sort of the secondary couple, which I find less interesting, but is pretty par for the course for this kind of series. We get enough of the main couple that I'm not like infuriated or anything. I don't hate the secondary couple, but they're less interesting, personally, in my opinion. This is a fun comedy BL about characters who, because they're virgins at their 30th birthday, are able to read minds of anyone that they touch. And our main character finds out that the very popular handsome man at his work is totally in love with him. And that makes him feel some kind of way. He's not sure, but obviously things unfold from there. Our secondary main character, the main character's best friend, who's sort of the secondary lead of the beta couple. He is a author. Same thing happens to him. He's a virgin when he turns 30, so he gets the ability to read people's minds, and he has sort of fallen head over heels for a delivery boy in his neighborhood. I say boy, he's a young person. He's like 21. So yeah, he's harboring all of these feelings for this vibrant young delivery man who brings him his parcels. And they become friends, and obviously, because these are happy ending stories, they start a relationship, which is sort of what we're focusing more so on right now. But yeah, funny, quirky. I really like, for something with such a silly title. I've said this before. It is quite earnest. I think the characters their relationships with each other are sweet. I think the way that the relationships are shown, like the communication in these relationships, is great. I really think that for something that has kind of a dumb gimmick, it doesn't rely on that dumb gimmick for too much, and it actually builds very healthy relationships between these characters, which is sort of amazing, considering that, like, initially one character is able to basically, I guess, cheat the system because he knows what his partner's thinking, so it could be very easy for him to just do everything perfectly in order to, make this person fall in love with him. But because he's a good person and also mature, he doesn't do that. He instead, actually communicates with his partner and goes through and tells the truth about the situation and makes the relationship itself work out because they're actually both of them, but he especially is putting in the work to respectfully have a relationship, an equal relationship with this person who he's going to care about. So yeah, I like this series. It's fun, it's sweet, and I don't know that it's wrapping up anytime soon, but I don't know that it needs to go on for too much longer. I'm gonna give it, I hope volume 15-ish is sort of the end, because I don't know that it needs to be much longer than this. Anyway, yeah, very good. We have an art book, and this is again from a series I've talked a lot about today. That is Doodles by Ryoko Kui, Daydream Hour. So this is a collection of artwork related to Delicious in Dungeon. This is actually a really, I own this art book in Japanese. There are a couple comics at the end, which is why I also repurchased it in English. But again, really showcases the creativity and the thought put into this fantasy world, these various fantasy cultures. Daydream Hour was a series of kind of shorter or giveaway booklets that were included in Harta/Fellows magazine, which is where Delicious in Dungeon was released. So this is a release, like a collected release, in the same way that the Kawamori Scribbles books or art books were. It's been really, really exciting as a fan of both of these creators to see their additional artwork that you would really have only been able to get if you're buying the magazines, available not only in the collected form and not only in Japanese but in English. So it's been a real win for me personally. I really like this book, and again, if you're a fan of Delicious in Dungeon and you like art books, this one's a no-brainer in my opinion. So yeah, check it out. At the end, I promise, we have some light novels to show off. The first one, debut, one that I've been looking forward to so much. So exciting when this was announced. This is Fuyumi Ono's The 12 Kingdoms, Book 1, Shadow of the Moon, Shadow of the Sea, Part 1. Oh my goodness, so exciting to have this series rescued and re-released. This is just a paperback edition of this first volume. I also own the Tokyo Pop edition, or at least I used to. I don't remember if I do still have it anymore. But haven't actually read this one. It is going to be a feature of an upcoming podcast episode though, so I'll keep you posted on that. But yeah, I mean, I'm familiar with this series. I've seen the anime, own the anime, and read the Tokyo Pop edition. So yeah, I've been wanting this series rescued for so long. You guys have no idea. So it Seven Seas has done a fantastic thing for me personally by releasing this. Yeah, it's a win. It's a win for light novel fans, especially. I hate to call this like a classic light novel, but it kind of is. But man, yay, so happy. And last but certainly not least, for light novels, we have 2 volumes of The Case Files of Jeweler Richard. This is by Nanako Sujimura and cover illustrations by Utako Yukihiro. This is another Seven Seas release, and one of very few light novels that I have been actively following. I'm actually reading volume 8 right now. So I'm a little bit behind with this series, but unlike some of so I've really cut back on my light novel reading or spending because my light novel reading hasn't been able to catch up. So I'm currently working through a big backlog of light novels I already own in order to one, I've been downsizing my light novel collection, but Jeweler Richard is one that I'm pretty consistently staying on top of. I really, really enjoy this series a lot, which makes sense as to why I've been reading it more than other series. But yeah, really, really enjoy this. This is a series about a Japanese, what starts as a Japanese university student who helps out a beautiful foreign man on the streets of Ginza, and ends up becoming his part-time worker at his jeweler store. In the multitude of volumes since then, their relationship has grown, become a little less straightforward, and their feelings for each other have shaped and changed. But yeah, this fantastic series. Seiji, our main character, has really grown and evolved as a character. Richard is a lot of fun to read about always, so, you know, nothing too surprising there. But really, really strong light novel, very kind of low-key. I don't want to call it a BL novel because it's, I guess technically it is, but not in the same way that like a lot of BL light novels are. I would liken it probably closer to more so a LGBT novel, but it is a very slow burn, so you're not gonna get, you know, overt sexual acts or anything comparatively to some of the other BL light novels out there. But very, 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 very good. Definitely worth reading. There's an anime which is what my introduction to this series was. That is, I believe it's still streaming in places, but I don't know that it has ever been released in the US. It is about to get a release in the UK, so for those who are wanting, there is that version, but I don't know that it ever got a Blu-ray or disc release in the US. For some reason, I don't know why, aside from just maybe timing. But yes, fantastic series and well worth reading and watching if you ever want. That was everything that I got for the past several months, since the last time I did one of these videos. Quite a bit to get through, but not, and I would say like a lot of variety, but not like a bulk of multitudes of different series. There was a couple series where I had a couple volumes, so it was more so just staying up to date with some of the series I'm actively following. Yeah, let me know your thoughts, feelings, opinions on anything that I spoke about today. It's been really, for me, a good exercise to slow down some of my collecting, I guess, really focusing on the stuff that I really enjoy and want to continue collecting. And because of that, as always, I go into this like purchasing and these updates with stuff that I really, really enjoy. I'll take a chance every so often on a new debut and things, but typically the series that I end up owning are things that I've already read or watched in some capacity, I'm already a fan of, and I know I will revisit in the future. And all of these series, for the most part, are are pretty much like exactly that. I do need to do an updated collection tour because a lot has changed, I think, since the last time I did one. Give you guys some insight on what I'm currently enjoying, the series that I own, the series that I may have, moved on from. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about curating a collection versus, just jumping into things and having as much of books as you can possibly fit on a shelf. That's never been my approach to manga or anime collecting, and I think that's just become more obvious and more refined the older I get. So thank you so much for watching, for listening. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye till then.